Thank you very much. A lot of rich people in this audience. I'm looking left, right, center, all the way in the back. They're rich too. But I'm thrilled to be back with so many friends and partners, leaders, and innovators here at the Future Investment Initiative. And it's a really great group of people, very smart group of people. They know what's happening in the world. It's my second address to the conference as President of the United States, and it's my honor to be here. Thank you very much. As you know, we're gathered at a moment of bold action and historic decision to make America and our allies safer and stronger, more prosperous, more successful than ever before. That's what's happening. Tonight, we're closer than ever to the rise of the Middle East that is finally free at last from Iranian terror, aggression, and nuclear blackmail. That's what's happened. It was nuclear blackmail for years and years. And beyond that, there was blackmail, period. Under my leadership, America is ending the threat posed by this radical regime, decimating Iran's capabilities with Operation Epic Fury, something that nobody's ever seen anything quite like it. We have the most powerful military in the world by far. I built it in my first term. Remember, I said $1 trillion. They all said, what do you mean $1 trillion? $1 trillion. Every year, another trillion the next, another trillion. We have the best people. We have by far the best equipment. We have weapons that nobody's ever seen before. We have weapons that nobody even knows about, except for a few of us. For 47 years, Iran has been known as the bully of the Middle East, but they are not the bully any longer. They're on the run. Last June, America's armed forces obliterated Iran's key nuclear facilities in one of the most spectacular military actions of all time. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. In the dead of night, no moon, 1 o'clock in the morning, we went in. It was called Operation Midnight Hammer. And every single one of those bombs hit their mark. Air shafts. They will never build an air shaft again, I promise you that. They went right down that granite mountain through air shafts. Most incredible technology you've ever seen, that a thing like that. And it was decimation, it was obliteration. One of the networks said, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. It was that bad. It turned out to be even more than we thought. But after that attack, the Iranian lunatics refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. And I have to say, before that, Barack Hussein Obama, did you ever hear of him? Barack Hussein Obama, he had the Iran nuclear deal. He went to Iran. He paid him. Remember, he sent two Boeing 757 jetliners. They took the seats out and they piled it with cash, like 1.7 billion of cash. That's when I realized the president is very powerful. The presidency is a very powerful thing. When you can do that, I haven't done that yet. I haven't found a reason to do that yet, but that's big. 1.7 billion in cash. You know, there wasn't a bank in DC, Virginia, or Maryland that had any money after that disaster. But they sent the cash to Iran, but more importantly, they signed an agreement, the Iran nuclear deal, which if I didn't terminate it in my first term, I terminated it almost immediately. If I didn't terminate it, they would have had a nuclear weapon long ago, and they would have used it on the Middle East, Israel and the Middle East. And you know the Middle East because when you look at all the missiles that got fired, UAE had 1,500 missiles shot at it. They didn't think they were going to have any. Saudi Arabia didn't expect to have, we have the most powerful Saudis. Oh, Yasser, you are so powerful. But Yasser, you didn't expect any missiles going to Saudi Arabia. They didn't expect them in Qatar. They didn't expect them in Kuwait, in Bahrain. The missiles rained down on you. They were going to hit you with nuclear or whatever they had. But we stopped it. We stopped it. We stopped it with him. And then there was a big moment also in my first administration when I took out Soleimani, and a lot of people think that might have been the biggest thing of all because he was a mad genius. He was a vicious, horrible human being, but he was a great general and a great leader, if you define a leader in a certain way, very, very powerful leader. In fact, he was so powerful that I really think that the leadership of Iran was extremely happy when I took him out, but they don't say that, but nobody's going to be asking him anymore because they're not here either. But getting the termination and terminating the Iran nuclear deal that was done by Biden and Obama, I would say mostly Obama. Actually, I don't think Biden knew where he was then, too. He had no idea. If you said to him, the Iran nuclear, what's that? But there was 4 years of hell we had with this guy as our leader, I'll tell you. And then we hit him with the B-2 bomber, so we did it twice. But if they would have had a nuclear weapon, it would have been a whole big deal. And I wouldn't be here right now, and probably you guys wouldn't be too happy. You might be in an area, who knows where you would have been. But we did it twice. And I really believe we saved the Middle East. We saved not just Israel, we saved the Middle East. And it was proven by all those rockets that fired down upon you. Saudi Arabia got hit a lot. You all got hit, and nobody expected any missiles to be wasted. You would have thought they were only going at Israel. They weren't. As president of the United States, I would never allow the world's #1 state sponsor of terror to obtain a nuclear weapon. I said that for a long time. And I didn't. To defend America and our allies over the past 27 days, the U.S. Armed Forces, most powerful in the world, have been annihilating Iran's military capacity with force, precision, skill like the world has never seen. It was violence, actually, really violence. We're crushing Iran's currently, as we speak. I just looked. We had another big day. We hit them. They don't know what's happening. Remember this. They lied about 3 days ago. I said, yeah, we're negotiating with Israel. We are not negotiating. They're being hit so hard. Anybody would be negotiating. They are negotiating. They're begging to make a deal. They're begging to make a deal. It turned out I was right. They were negotiating, which they admitted 2 days later. And in order to make up for their misstatement, they said, we're going to send you 8 ships of oil. And the following day I saw, this is 2 days ago, I saw on one of the networks, very strange, there were 8 ships of oil coming out of Iran. And then they actually said, we're going to add an extra 2. And they added an extra 2, so we had 10 ships. And then people realized we were actually negotiating. And we're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me for this. I'm so sorry. Such a terrible mistake. The fake news will say, he accidentally said, no. There's no accidents with me, not too many. If there were, we'd have a major story. No, well, we had that with the Gulf of Mexico. Remember the Gulf of Mexico? And one day I said, why is it the Gulf of Mexico? We have 92% of the area around it. They have 8%, really less than 8%. But for 350 years, it was good. You know, they were there 100 years longer than us, Mexico. They're at 350, we're at 250. And I said, often asked myself, why do we call it the Gulf of Mexico? It seems like we dominate. Well, when I checked, it was more than 92%. So I announced, I wouldn't say Mexico was thrilled, but I announced that from now on, the Gulf of Mexico is going to be called the Gulf of America. And it took about 1 hour, and it was done. Everybody, the president called me. She's really a nice person, too. I like her a lot. She called up. She had the most beautiful voice. She's a very elegant woman, has a beautiful, beautiful voice. She goes, President, tell me, this is not so. No, it's so. Oh, it's so. And then Google Maps changed it. We won the court case in about 1 hour, and Google Maps changed the name. And it's now the Gulf of America, which it should be, in all fairness. We're crushing Iran's weapons stockpiles, destroying their missiles and drone factories at levels nobody ever thought was possible, and turning their defense industrial base into nothing. Iran's navy is gone. It's all sunk at the bottom of the Gulf and elsewhere. Did you see the attack submarine that we have went after one of their boats? It was called the Soleimani. It was the pride of their fleet. But this attack submarine goes like 60 miles an hour. I never saw anything. And it caught them in about 2 minutes. And that was the end of the Soleimani. Now, then they're 100% dead. They have 22 mine droppers. They go on mine droppers. And the mine droppers, 22, all 22 are gone. So I guess they can drop mines, but they're going to have to take them out by a rowboat because they don't have any boats. Their Air Force is dead, totally, completely dead. It's out of business. No planes left at all. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled and dead. And their leaders are all dead. Other than that, I think they're doing quite well. No, their leaders are dead. Their supreme leader is no longer supreme. He's dead. The son is either dead or in very bad shape because nobody's heard from him. I think he says, just keep me out of this. This is the only country where nobody wants to lead. There's nobody. Who would like to lead Iran? Please raise your hand, a big audience of distinguished. Who would like to be our leader? Dead silence. Nobody wants to lead. Now, we have an amazing military. We have the greatest intelligence apparatus that anybody's ever seen. We can tell you everything that's going on. We know everything that's going on. We're achieving each and every one of the military objectives I laid out less than 4 weeks ago. And we're doing it really, I guess we're 2 weeks ahead of schedule. We're not into it very long. We wouldn't have thought we would have been. We knew it was going to be easy. We call it a military operation. We don't call it a war. We call it a military operation. We're very disappointed, by the way, with NATO. They didn't come to our aid. I didn't try too hard, actually, because I wanted to prove a point. I didn't sell. They probably think I'm a lousy salesman. I said, would you like to help us? To President of France, Macron, nice guy. He is a nice guy. I said, Emmanuel, would you like to help? Yes. As soon as the war is over, we will send ships. I said, no. I don't want them when the war is over. I want them before we start. And UK, our longest ally, nobody ever thought this was possible. I said to the Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, we'd like you to have 2 aircraft carriers. They're little ones. They're not very good. I know they don't go fast, and I know they don't work very well, but we could probably use them maybe for helicopters. And they said, yes, we are preparing them. I see, when will they be ready? Maybe in a month or 2. Oh, great, that's wonderful. I said, are you going to help us? Yes, we're going to help you. When the war is finished, we will be there. This is NATO. And I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. And I always said we help NATO, but they'll never help us. And if the big one ever happened, and I don't think it will, but if the big one ever happened, I guarantee you they wouldn't be there. And we learned from that. And remember what I said, because they made a big mistake. They were not there. The Chancellor of Germany, these are all friends of mine, Friedrich, the Chancellor of Germany, he said, this is not our war. We have nothing to do. Well, Ukraine's not our war, but we help them. I wouldn't have had to help. If I were president, that war would have never happened. But we had a man of a very low IQ as president, and he had no idea what the hell he was. I was listening to him talk. I said, he's forcing an issue that's going to be trouble, and it turned out to be trouble. Last week, 28,000 soldiers died. The week before that, 32,000 soldiers died. I think we're going to get it settled, but it's a terrible thing. Worse since World War II. I settled 8 wars. And this should have been one of the easier ones, but the hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky is extreme. Never good. Hatred's a bad thing when you're trying to settle a war. I want to thank the entire kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Been very helpful, unlike NATO. Saudi Arabia fought, Qatar fought, UAE fought, Bahrain fought, and Kuwait fought, even though they shot down 3 of our planes with the finest missiles. We could have done without that. They didn't know they were our planes. They wasted 3 great Patriot missiles, and you have to say there's nothing like these Patriots. We had an attack of 101 a few days ago. 101 missiles shot at a very valuable thing that we had floating on the water, namely an aircraft carrier, biggest in the world. And they were shot, 101, going 2,500 miles an hour. And out of the 101 missiles shot, 101 missiles were shot down and spread out all over the sea. Pretty amazing. That's called incredible technology, right, Steve? That's called great technology. Think of it, 101 missiles going 2,500 miles an hour. You don't have a lot of time. And these aren't necessarily weightlifting shoulders. These are very smart people doing that. And I watched them. I watched their performance. Missiles launched. It's almost like they're bored by it. They have like 9 seconds ahead of FIFA, the most powerful man in sports. Johnny, you never choked, right? These guys can't choke, but they're very smart. High IQs. We need high IQs. We have too many low IQ people. But what happened is, you have to see it. It's very cool. Missiles launched, missiles launching. They're launching. Okay, we're ready. 101 missiles coming at them. All right, we have to have like 11 seconds to make a determination. And then at 7 seconds, fire. It's the most unbelievable thing. Fire, boom. One at a time, just knocked them out like they were nothing. Genius. It's like unbelievable. I mean, to think and we have the technology nobody has. Look at what happened in Venezuela. They had other equipment, not ours. They made the mistake of using other equipment. Didn't work too well. And Venezuela took 45 minutes. It was a 45-minute war. This one's bigger. It's a bigger country, a lot more powerful. It's a lot more powerful, but it's not powerful anymore. Within 2 days, I think the damage was done, but now it's really done. Now we're just going after targets, and they have no anti-aircraft, so we're just floating over the top looking for whatever we want, and we're hitting it, and we have another 3,554 targets left. And that'll be done pretty quickly. And then at some point we're going to have to determine what we do. But they've never seen anything like it. When we hit Venezuela, that's a very strong military country. They have soldiers. If you've ever been there, I've been there. They have a lot of soldiers walking around all over the place. Everyone's a soldier. Very military kind of a place. And there was a general, professional general, really good. And he said, we were all set for him. We knew there was a problem when we noticed at 1 o'clock in the morning, every 32 seconds, another airplane, a very fast plane, was coming off the deck of an aircraft carrier. That's actually the biggest aircraft carrier in the world. And every 32 seconds, boom. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. So we said, okay, I think we're in trouble. But they were ready for us, Johnny. And we were ready. He said, we were ready. And then they hit us, and they came from 17 different angles. They were here, they were there. We ran for our lives. It was over. And it was over. And then we took this guy who was a very bad guy, and within literally minutes, he was in the back of a helicopter in a house that was in a big military base with thousands and thousands of soldiers. The house was all steel, with steel doors, steel everything. They had the small steel doors, the big storage. We were equipped for anything. Even the big one, it would have been opened within 30 seconds. They walked in with blow torches. And within minutes, he was out of the house, being thrown into the helicopter, sailing away. And the soldiers just looked, bye. Enjoy your trip, sir. It was amazing. It was but this is more amazing what's happening now, because we took a very strong country. I could see the problem you would have had. I mean, this was not a weak country. This was a strong country. They had over 10,000 missiles that they accumulated since October 2nd, if you think. Since the B-2s, they accumulated them in a matter of months, 6 months. But they had well over 10,000. They had rocket launchers. Rocket launchers are more important than the rockets. Because you take a rocket launcher out, that's the end of that. People think you can take those big rockets and throw them out your window, like when you were a child with the paper airplanes. You said, it doesn't work that way. You need those launchers, and we knocked out 97% of the launchers. That's why you may be attacked, but you're not being attacked with very heavy numbers of missiles like at the beginning. But in particular, I want to thank my friend, the Crown Prince Mohammed, who is a fantastic man and a great friend of mine, and a friend of all of yours, I think. And he's a warrior. He's a warrior. He was not afraid of this country that, frankly, he should have been afraid of because they're very powerful. I want to thank Tamim, because Tamim is, these three people have been unbelievable. Tamim, and then UAE, Mohammed. These are three great people. And they were under tremendous attack, unexpected attack. And they weren't thinking this was going to happen. Nobody was. And they turned against them and really became very powerfully aligned. And they were with us, but they weren't with us very obliquely. They were with us. But I think that I have to acknowledge for their bravery, because they were being hit pretty hard. All three of them, they were being hit pretty hard. The Emir, Mohammed, you had two Mohammeds and a Tamim, and they're friends of mine. And also I have to say that Bahrain and Kuwait, they were stand up, more so than NATO, I want to tell you, more so than NATO. Now they're a little closer to the action than NATO in all fairness, but very disappointed with NATO, but I wasn't disappointed with our allies in the Middle East and others. And others. We had tremendous support from countries that were not in the general area, but they were tremendously supportive. I think Turkey was fantastic, actually fantastic, and they stayed out of things that we asked them to, and he's a great leader. He's a great leader. And Indonesia was great. We had so many great, you learn who your friends are, really do. You learn who your friends are. And, but Indonesia, Turkey, and so many other countries. But the five were great. But your dear friend and my dear friend he was all man. He stood up and he wasn't scared. Maybe he was, I don't know, maybe he was, but he didn't show it. He was great, a great leader. Saudi Arabia can be very proud of because he's got a lot of titles. He's the Crown Prince. He's the Prime Minister. He's the future king. He's got about 7 other titles. I said, you have more titles than any human being on earth. He's everything. And he deserves to be because he's a winner. So I just want to thank those people. So the Middle East will be transformed, and the future of that region I don't think it's ever looked brighter. You couldn't have, we did the Abraham Accords. I hope you're going to be getting into the Abraham Accords finally. Yeah, so will you please go back and explain? It's time now. Mohammed said, oh yes, as soon as we do this, as soon as we do that. I said, Mohammed, we did that. Oh yes, but we have a couple of other things. It's now time. We've now taken them out and they are out bigly. We got to get into the Abraham Accords. And we hope all of the countries are going to be in the Abraham Accords. Now, we have some very brave countries that did it, years ago. They went in, and you know who they are, the early four, and they did a great thing in doing it, and it was great for them also economically, but it was a great thing that they did it. But I think all the Middle Eastern countries are going to be joining now. And in some cases, I would say all the Middle Eastern countries and beyond. You have people not in the Middle East that want to be members. You'll be seeing that soon. In the meantime, the conflict in Iran also makes it absolutely vital for the radical left Democrats in Congress to immediately end their dangerous shutdown of our Department of Homeland Security. They want to play games. That's all they are. These people are lunatics. They sort of remind me actually a little bit of Iran. They're deranged. They're deranged Democrats. For 42 days, they've tried to completely eliminate funding for the number one duty of government, which is keeping America safe. And they want no ICE. They want no border patrol. They want no protection of any kind to be given, reopening our borders and stopping all immigration enforcement in our country. They want to have our borders be open again. We took in 25 million people. We've gotten a lot of them out. tremendous numbers of people that should never have been here. Over 4 long years before my election, these same radical, lunatic Democrats let 25 million people pour across our borders like they were nothing, like they were non-existent. These people were totally unvetted, unchecked, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, vicious criminals, even the criminally insane. In 2024, the American people voted in a landslide to stop the invasion of our country. And I won all 7 swing states by millions and millions of votes. We won the Electoral College by a massive number. We won the popular vote, millions and vote, just millions. This was a big election. I loved every minute of it. And for the first time, no Republicans done anything like this in decades, but for the first time we won the counties of America. That's a big one. 2,700 to 525. 2,700 to 525. 87% of the vote. We won 87% of the counties. In other words, it was a mandate like our country has not seen in many decades. It was a mandate for an ideology, which is an ideology basically of common sense. We want strong borders. We want a powerful military. We want good education. We want to have homes for people and low interest rates and no inflation. And right now, my polls are better than they've ever been before. You know, I heard the other day, I think that he's losing the MAGA base. I said, really? Because of the war. See, I get into a war. Of course, they call it a war. I call it a military conflict. But there's a legal reason for that. But you get into a war or a military operation or conflict for you, and then they say, my base. I said, no. MAGA's stronger than ever because MAGA's make America great again. But my MAGA people, which is the greatest phrase in the history of politics, it's the most important movement by far, probably in the history of the world. I mean, you know, there's never been anything like this. And in fact, just a few days ago, you have to understand, the fake news right back, oh, that's a lot of fake news. Yeah, so you brought a lot of fake news with you. They must know you're going to make a speech at some point because look at but what happened is the fake news was saying, he may, they hope. You know, it's like, oh, we got to get rid of this guy. They say, he may be losing his MAGA base. And that would be maybe the end of him. And then I happened to be watching CNN, which is terrible. They treat me terribly. In fact, just a few days ago, CNN had a poll that had me at 100% of MAGA voters. They said they've never seen anything like that. Can you put that up? I actually said if you could put it up. Do you have the technology to put it up? Go ahead, give it a shot.
You know, sometimes you look at the polling data and there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you, and this is one of those. Because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%, 100%. If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Good technology, thank you. I figured you'd have good tech. I said, I wonder if they could put that poll up. We just did it 2 minutes ago. No, but I was watching this and I'm hearing them saying, could he be losing the MAGA base? I don't think so. You know why? Because MAGA wants to win, number one. Number two, they want our country protected. They don't want another country out there that's hostile and crazy to have a nuclear weapon. And number three, they like us protecting certain allies, whether it's Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE, any of them. They want that. MAGA wants strength and they want victory. They want success. And that's what we have. And we have been very, very successful. You know, when I went into Venezuela, I said, because I campaigned on the fact peace through strength, you wouldn't have to use. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it. But sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please. Disregard that statement. Thank you very much. Cuba's next. So despite the radical left Democrat shutdown, we will continue to defend the sovereign borders of the United States of America and will defend our allies and your ally. You didn't know they were that tough, did you? You didn't know. They were pretty tough, Iran. Not tough anymore. Now we'll continue to deport dangerous criminal aliens from our country. Just days ago, an 18-year-old girl in Chicago named Sheridan Gorman was gunned down by a savage criminal alien led in by Sleepy Joe Biden and released in a Democrat sanctuary city. He was an animal. The same month, an 83-year-old veteran, highly regarded person, was shoved onto the subway tracks and murdered by an illegal alien with a long criminal history in New York City. These are vicious criminal thugs, disgusting human beings that Democrats have defunded our airports to protect. They want our airports to be defunded so that these people can come into our country. Not going to happen. We're not going to have it. That's why this week I deployed ICE to our airports to help reduce the delays. People there are doing a great job, but they didn't want to pay them. The Democrats didn't want to pay them. And a short time ago, I also ordered emergency funding to resume paying the TSA agents immediately. They're getting paid. Democrats must stop their dangerous and destructive shutdown and reopen the Department of Homeland Security without delay. And it's time that they start thinking properly. That's why they lost in such a landslide and put America first. It's time that they start thinking about America first. And we're honored to be joined tonight by many distinguished guests from around the world, including FII Institute Chairman Yasser Al-Romayan. Where are you, Yasser? Come here, stand up. Yes, yes, please. What a nice name. What a nice name. And his son, Faisal. And by the way, I've known him really well, but I've never heard his last name. So I'm saying, who the hell is Yasser? I know Yasser. I said, who the hell is that guy? But I know him by Yasser, right? I didn't know if it was your first name or your last name. All I know is he's got a lot of power. All I know is he's got a lot of cash. And he's another great leader, actually, and he's a good friend of mine. So nice to be with you and nice to be with your son. Son's beautiful. Saudi Minister of Finance, Mohammed Al-Jadaan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again. Good job. I mean, if you want to be a Minister of Finance, Saudi Arabia is a good place to do it, right? You don't have any dearth. There's no dearth of funds. Most places, they say, where are we going to get the money? How about a tax increase? Minister of State, Mohammed Al-Sheikh. Mohammed? Thank you very much. Great honor. Chairman of the Saudi Esports Federation, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal. And of course, please. Thank you. And of course, the kingdom's wonderful ambassador to the United States, Her Royal Highness Princess Rima, who's great. She's great. Also, I want to thank the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Madabio. Madabio, I love that name. Thank you. Great honor to have you. And chairman of the FII Institute Executive Committee, Richard Attias. Thank you, Richard. As well as special envoy, I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak. Because Henry is a big leaker. Richard Nixon would beat him. Henry, somebody's leaking on us. There's somebody leaking. Henry would say, we'll get to the bottom. It was Henry that was leaking. That wasn't good. So we have Henry Kissinger, better than Henry Kissinger, and he doesn't leak. Special envoy, Steve Witkoff. Thank you, Steve. Doing a great job. And he and Jared Kushner, they're like a team, and boy, I tell you, they're a good team. High IQ. It's a high IQ team. You want to find your high IQ people. Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Michael Kratsios, a Greek individual. Where's Michael? He was at the Greek event. Hi, Michael. He was at the Greek event yesterday, so I know he's Greek. They asked me, please, sir, would you introduce Michael? CMS administrator, a phenomenal man, a brilliant man. He had a show on television for like 20 years that was so great. I was on his show. He said, would you do me a favor? Would you go on my show? I said, yeah, I'll go on your show. It's a big show. It was very successful. And I went on his show, and he determined that I should lose weight. This is what I went through. He said, I think you should lose weight. I said, I don't need you saying that in front of millions of people. You don't have to tell me that. But he's a great guy, and I don't know how he ever got the job after that, but he's the most powerful man, actually. Medicine, him and Bobby, what a team. Bobby is great. He's great. Dr. Oz, you know that, Mehmet Oz. And they're coming up with things that are amazing, a little out of the box, but the out of the box guys are really finding things that are amazing. Autism, that's so important to us. We want to find out, why is it happening in such large numbers all over the world, but why is it happening in our country all over the world? And you're coming up with some pretty impressive studies and answers. A really good friend of mine, the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, and Johnny is great. You know, when I didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, you got to understand, I don't care. Norway has lost so credible. I stopped 8 wars. I even stopped India and Pakistan. And they were going at it for a week. They had 9 planes already shot down. They were in a war. I stopped them. You know how I stopped them? I said, if you keep fighting, I'm going to put a 250% tariff on each one. No, you cannot do that. I said, I'm doing it. All right, we won't fight anymore. That's how I stopped them. I used tariffs to stop. You ever hear of anything like that? It was too much for them to bear. But they were going to be in a war. And the prime minister, actually a great guy, the prime minister of Pakistan said President Trump saved 30 to 50 million people. 2 nuclear countries would have happened. And I figured, if I don't get the Nobel Prize for Peace, nobody will ever get it. I didn't get it. I'm not surprised. I didn't get it. And the person that got it was shocked. She's a wonderful woman, too, by the way. And she said, no, I don't deserve it. President Trump does. Nobody deserves it. Nobody ever does. I stopped 8 wars, Yasser. Do you know what that is? 8 wars. You didn't stop 8 wars. You started 8 wars, Yasser. I stopped 8 wars. But it was a little early because, in all fairness, it was for the year before, right? It was for 24. But still, you thought they would have made an exception. But they didn't do that. You watch what happens. But it was sort of amazing. So she was so nice, and she actually came to the White House, and she presented me with her award. She's a wonderful woman. But stopping wars is it's the best. I think I do it the best. I stopped wars that nobody thought. President Putin called me. He said, I can't believe you stopped this one and this one, which are impossible. Azerbaijan, it was an impossible war to stop. We stopped it. But we also have a man who's probably good at stopping wars. I know he's good at being a tough guy. He is a tough guy. He's been very tough on crime, and he's done a great job. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez is here someplace. Francis, hi. How are you? And we have our great son. He's got the best genes, I think, of any human being I've ever known. He's my son, Don Trump. Don, he's a great guy. And his fiancée, Bettina. Good, Bettina, good. No, my son's got the greatest genes in history. I'm a big believer in genes, by the way, I will tell you. My daughter, Tiffany, and her husband, Michael. My beautiful daughter. Great. And they have a new child, the most beautiful guy we've seen, right? Blows us all away, right? He's great. Thank you for being here. And countless other business leaders. We have so many friends of mine here, so many business leaders, but we can't go on because we have a couple of moments more to discuss the world and the economy. Over the past 14 months, the Trump administration has achieved perhaps the most dramatic one-year turnaround of any nation in all of history. A short time ago, a man that we just discussed, the king, the future king of Saudi Arabia, and I also love the king of Saudi Arabia. What a man he is. When I was there, we bonded. He would grab me to get up. He was a little frail at the time, and this was a long time ago, and he's still doing well. And he'd grab my arm to get up when I was sitting next to him. And they said that's the only time he's ever grabbed anybody. He would grab me all the time. And I said, I think he likes me. And he did like me, and he still likes me, and he's a great man, and say hello to him. He's a great guy with a great son. But a short time ago, we were together, and he looked at me, and he said, you know, it's amazing. 1 year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're the hottest country anywhere in the world. He didn't think this was going to happen. He didn't think he'd be kissing my ass. He really didn't. He thought he'd be just another American president that was a loser, where the country was going downhill. But now he has to be nice to me. You tell him he better be nice to me. He's got to be. But it was really something. He said, though, he said, you know, it's amazing, President, because he's a very smart, but a regular kind of a guy. He said, you know, it's amazing, President. A year ago, in that case, it was a year and a half. It was 6 months ago. But a year ago, you were a dead country. Now you're literally the hottest country anywhere in the world. And that was before we beat the hell out of Iran. You know, now I think he's got to say even better. I think we have to up it. But he's fantastic. And everything we do, we're working to make America the #1 place on earth to do business. We passed the largest tax cuts in American history, including no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. We provided 100% expensing and bonus depreciation so that anyone who wants to build a factory can deduct the entire cost of equipment and the entire factory in the first year. That used to take 38 years to do. You'd take it little drips. Now it's done. And you know, a lot of people remember that my first 4 years was the most successful time we've ever had financially in the history of our country. We had an unbelievable success, but this is much better. And by the way, when this war ends, it's going to be like a rocket ship. I thought we were going to go down more, and I thought oil prices were going to go up higher than they are now. It's not finished yet. I'm not saying it's sort of finished, but it's not finished. It's got to be finished. And I thought that we would see a bigger drop in stock. It hasn't been that bad. You know, it's sort of crazy. I hit 50,000 on the Dow. People said that wouldn't be possible within 4 years. I did it in 1 year. And then we hit 7,000 on the S&P. People said that's even harder than hitting 50,000 on the Dow. And I did that in less than 1 year. Toward the end of the year, both of them, we broke every record, every stock record we broke. And you're big beneficiaries because so many of you invest in the United States, and keep doing it because it's going to be a rocket ship. You watch. But then I said, all right, do I have to do this? We have a country that's sick and demented, and they have a nuclear weapon, or they want to have one. They were very close to getting it. Remember, they were 2 weeks away. They were 2 weeks away. If we didn't hit that, I call it the nuclear dust. I use the term nuclear dust. If we didn't knock the hell out of them, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 to 4 weeks, and they would have used it on you and on Israel and on everyone else. And I said, we really do have to stop and go on a little different journey for a little while and take them out and then go back to life. And that's what we did. And we did it violently. We did it powerfully. We did it with the respect of the world. And we helped a lot of allies. And we learned about other allies. We learned that other allies weren't there. We didn't need them, but they weren't there if we did need them. And that's going to be very costly for them. The stock market has set 53 all-time record highs since the election, adding $9 trillion in value to America's savings and retirement accounts and 401ks. Everybody's benefiting by this. And more Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. At any time. To me, that's the #1 stat. More Americans are working today, by far, than at any time in the history of our country. And in 14 months, we've lifted 3.3 million Americans off of food stamps. That's a record. And Biden and his allies wrecked our country. They wreaked havoc on our economy, and they gave us the worst inflation in American history. Under Trump, during the last 3 months of 2025, we got core inflation down to 1.6%. And right now, the average tax refund for filers, because of the great big beautiful bill, has been close to $5,000. It's a lot of money for a family. And this, when I'm talking to Saudi Arabia and I'm talking about $5,000, they'd look at me, 5,000? That's like a penny, right, David? That's like a penny. Saudi Arabia is not into $5,000, but it's Saudi Arabia. I just want to ask, are the Saudis impressed by the fact that a family has saved $5,000? I know they're looking like, what the hell is 5,000? Their shoes cost them more than 5,000. But that's the way it goes. We're talking about the real world. In his entire term, Joe Biden, I have two terms for him, Crooked Joe and Sleepy Joe. It's always been pretty, I do sometimes a poll, which is a more accurate term, sleepy or crooked, pretty much even. I like sleepy. In his entire term, Sleepy Joe Biden got less than $1 trillion of new investment in the United States, a lot less. And in our first 11 months, 12th month is coming, it's going to be big, we did $18 trillion. Think of it, less than $1 trillion for 4 years. In 11 months, we did $18 trillion. And we have factories being built all over the country at a level that's never been seen before. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I allow these plants and everything to build their own electricity. Well, we need big electricity. They're all building their own electricity. But a lot of it has to do with the tax bill, a lot of them, because it's really the biggest tax reduction bill in history, the great big beautiful bill. And a lot of it has to do with the 1-year deductibility where you build a plant and you take the whole thing as a deduction. I did that in my first term also, but I had it for 1 year. Now I have it for 10 years. So it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty amazing what we're seeing. But it all started with our historic visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. My first visit was to the future king. And on that first foreign trip of my presidency last May, the Crown Prince announced that Saudi Arabia would be investing an incredible almost $1 trillion in the United States, which he later increased. As just a few examples of these new partnerships, Oracle will be building a $14 billion worth of cloud computing and AI infrastructure in the kingdom. I didn't know that, David. We have to talk to your father about that. Why isn't he doing it here, David? I'm very upset with you. And by the way, David has done a very good job. David Ellis said he just had a very big win. And your father's very proud of you because your father said, that's a tough one. And you got it done. It's going to be a great success. You're going to be a great success. You're going to blow away your father. And he'll be very happy about that because he loves you. But it's a great family. Great family. Say hello to him, okay? You're going to have a big, big success with the deal he made. Boeing is selling dozens of 737 airplanes in a deal valued at $4.8 billion and supporting approximately 20,000 U.S. jobs. And during our trip, the United States and Saudi Arabia, and I must say also Qatar, we visited, they were fantastic. And UAE, we visited, they were fantastic, all three of them. We took in a total of almost $3 trillion from just those three countries. But Saudi Arabia signed the largest defense sales agreement in American history, nearly $142 billion of the finest military equipment anywhere in the world. We make the best military equipment in the world by far. Nobody's ever figured out the Patriot. I mean, when you can shoot down 101 out of 101, that's good stuff, right? And those suckers are traveling at 2,000, Mr. Minister, 2,500 miles an hour. You better hope you don't have chokers sitting behind that desk. Because if they're about 1 second late, that's the end of it. You say, well, we missed them. They're coming. When I hosted the Crown Prince at the White House last fall, we officially designated the kingdom as a major non-NATO ally, first time. And for the very first time, we agreed to sell Saudi Arabia perhaps the most capable fighter jet ever built, the F-35. The F-35 is amazing. And we sell them very sparingly. We don't want other people to have them. I'm confident that this partnership and so many others around the world will continue to grow and thrive because under President Trump, America once again fights and competes for one thing. We fight to win. We fight for justice and we fight to win. We don't fight to be politically correct. like we did under other presidents, where we fought to just keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And, when I took out ISIS, I was told by generals it would take 4 to 5 years. And I met General Raisin Kane, who's our top person, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I said, if I ever do this thing again, if I ever get in, I'm putting that guy as the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I went to see him in Iraq, and I said, why is it taking so long to destroy ISIS? We have the best weapons in the world. And I understood why, but I had generals, I call them the television generals. They weren't any good. Mattis, Milley, they weren't any good. They were lousy. But they said, sir, it will take about 4 years. When I went over and I met General Kane, I said, how long will it take? 4 weeks, sir. You'll have a lot of time left over. I said, wait a minute. Did you say 4 weeks? 4 weeks, sir. It'll take 4 weeks. You'll have a lot of time left over. That's our new head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said, how do you do that? Well, sir, we were only able to fight from this one very far away location because nobody wanted to use all of our portable runways that we have all over the Middle East. We have portable runways, can you believe it? We have everything. But nobody wanted to use them because they didn't want to insult the country where the runway was located. I said, they wouldn't even know. Do you think some country's going to know when we have jets taking off? They don't know. He said, well, I agree with you, sir, but whether they know or not, who cares? He said, so we have about 17 locations that we could take off. From this one, it took 8 hours to get to the destination. By the time we got there, we had to refuel all the time, and we had to come back. And he said, but we have 17 different locations, sir. And, sir, we're going to hit them from the left. We're going to hit them from the right. We're going to hit them from the east and the west. And we're going to hit them from above. And you could see he was getting crazy. And I said, what's your first name? He said, Raisin, sir. What do you mean, Raisin? My name is Raisin. He said, you mean your name is Raisin Kane? And he said, yes, sir. You're the guy I'm looking for. I've been looking for you for 4 frickin' years. I found Raisin Kane. His first name is Dan, but his nickname is Raisin. And I love that. I loved Raisin Kane. And I said, if I ever get in, this was before I decided to even run, I said, if I ever run and if I win, that guy's going to be the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's exactly what happened. And he was all for me, and I'm all for him, but he's a great general. He's like one of these football coaches that's great. There's some great ones, Johnny, right? And all they do is they sit, their wives are complaining, everyone's complaining. They never go, they don't see anybody. They just go into the room and they study film and tape it. Then they go out and win, and everyone says, and other guys are out there playing golf. They're not winning. And he's been great. And Pete Hegseth has been amazing. He's been amazing. Pete has done a great job. He was born for it. I really believe he was born for it. We have a lot of great people. We had a great first 4 years, but the people we have now, look, when I won, I'd never done it before. I ran, everyone thought I was doing it for fun. Even Steve Witkoff, he said, you're doing it for fun, right? No, I guess, I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing it for, maybe. But they all said, no, he's going to run, and in September he's going to have a lot of fun, he'll drop out. And then the debates came, and I did good in the debates, and we're knocking people off, all senators, governors, mostly senators and governors, all professional politicians, smart guys. You can't be stupid and be a senator or a governor. It doesn't work that way. Other than Biden, he got lucky. He was in a room, they locked him in a room, and he never got to talk. So, but that's a whole other story. But I ran, and then all of a sudden there were 18 people, including me. Then there were 15, then there were 12, then there were 9, then there were 6, 5. It's like a rocket ship. 4. And then all of a sudden, I won. But I never did it before. I went to Washington. I said, I've only been here 17 times, and I've never slept over. I didn't know anybody. So I had to take recommendations from rhinos and some good people. I mean, there were recommendations, and some were really good. I mean, I had some great people. Look, I rebuilt our entire military in the first term. We got the largest tax cuts in history, the largest regulation cuts in history in the first time. We did good, but I didn't have the same people generally. But I went home and I watched this thing closely. And by that time, I knew the good, the bad, and the ugly. I knew the good ones. I knew the bad ones. And when I came back, I picked great people. We have an unbelievable, we're talking military now, but we have an unbelievable group because I got to know it. I was never in Washington. It's hard. I never ran for class president. All of a sudden, ladies and gentlemen, your next president of the United States is Donald Trump. I said, really? I never did this before. Johnny, I said, how the hell did this happen, right? But it did happen, and we had a great first term. But the second term is blowing it away, to be honest with you. It's really blowing it away. And when we decide to leave, regime change, I guess we change the regime. The regime gets blown up every 2 days. No, everybody's afraid to announce who's the head. We don't even know who the hell the leader is. So I think we have regime change already. But we're going to be, at some point, we'll be leaving. And I think you're going to see a rocket ship because we won't have that dark cloud hanging over our heads, Steve, right, that we did before, which was a nuclear-armed, sick country of Iran, because it might have affected your country, Saudi Arabia, and the others, and it certainly affected Israel more than anybody, the hatred they have for Israel, but it also affected us, because with modern-day equipment, they can fly. And how about the fact that they flew a missile 2,700 miles the other day? They didn't say they had that. Nobody knew they had that. Went 2,700 miles. So we learned a lot, but we're determined to have the best technology, the brightest minds, the greatest businesses, and the strongest economic and security partnerships of any nation, anywhere in the world. And for this reason, we're also committed to ensuring the United States remains number one in artificial intelligence. We're doing great. We're leading China by a lot, and I'll not allow radical left maniacs to sacrifice American AI leadership to red tape or political correctness. It's going good. We're doing really well. We're building factories all over America, the biggest in the world. And in America, we don't fear the future. We invent the future. We're really inventing the future. We have the most brilliant minds. And we invite all nations to join us in building the most powerful AI ecosystem on the planet. We're building more automobile plants than any time in the last 50 years for a lot of reasons. I think number one, maybe the election, but number two, and a close number two, is tariffs. The tariffs are driving people in from Canada, Mexico, Germany, Japan, South Korea. They're coming in. We're building auto plants all over the United States, tens of billions. I met Mr. Toyota in Japan. I said, what's your name? He's about 92 years old. Sharp as a tack. What's your name? Toyota. I said, you're rich. I said, do you have anything to do with automobiles? Yes. What do you have to do with Toyota? I own it. And I said, well, do you want to make an investment? Yes, we're going to spend $10 billion, spending $10 billion right now on building 5 plants. Everybody is. They're all coming into America. We're going to be hotter than we were 70 years ago when we dominated the automobile. We made all of the cars. My administration has also worked tirelessly to ensure that America remains at the bleeding edge of crypto revolution. We're really doing great. And if we're not going to do it, then China is going to take it over. They want to do it. We're going to be the undisputed crypto capital and Bitcoin superpower of the world. Bitcoin's very powerful. It's all becoming powerful. So many people now, they want to pay you in crypto. They want to pay you in Bitcoin. And we have to be at the top of it in all of these, call it an industry. Last year, I signed the landmark Genius Act into law, creating a clear and simple framework for dollar-backed stablecoins. And this was a historic achievement, and I'll not allow Democrats and their big bank donors, although they've had a lot of support for crypto. They will say that. The Democrats have been very strong on crypto. They want to see it too, which is shocking if you want to know the truth. But we don't want any pointless regulations or needless restrictions. We want to have free enterprise, open. America became the world financial capital because we were the strongest and the freest nation on earth, and the Trump administration's going to keep it that way. We're very open. And I tell people, if you have problems, call me. And some of them are amazed I actually take their call and get their problem solved. For 4 long years, our country was pushed to the brink of destruction by radicals and thugs and stupid people who punished success, pillaged our economy, dismantled our borders, and surrendered our strength. But today, all of that is behind us. Our country is prospering again, I think, like never before. I would say, it's amazing. I knew I'd do it. I didn't know I was going to do it. I had no idea it was going to be this fast. But you never know. I had no idea I'd be going into Iran. I didn't think we'd have to do that. But it turned out we did, because they became more and more radicalized and more threatening. Our economy is booming again, and America is respected again all over the world, perhaps like never before. With the help of business leaders, innovators, allies, and partners like those in this room, incredible people in this room, incredible success stories, the most successful people in the world. We'll seize every opportunity, overcome every challenge, defeat every threat, and America and our allies will thrive and prosper and win like no nations have ever won before. You're going to win like you've never had before. So I want to just thank everybody very much, and I'm asked to take a few questions, and unlike other politicians, they would like the questions screened. I don't ask for screening of the questions. You can ask me anything you want. You can talk sex, you can do whatever the hell you want. I'm here for you. Whatever question you want, you can ask. So do you want to do that? Do we have some people handling this? Here he comes. Look at this man. Very powerful man coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take some questions. Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you so much. And thank you for accepting to take 5 questions. We don't want to take too much of your time. So let's talk about business. In one sentence, where should the world invest in America right now?
Say it, what?
Where should the world invest in America right now?
Well, look, the one that they're going crazy about is AI. Now, sometimes you'll say, let's go the opposite, because I've seen it. Everyone goes, but AI is going crazy. AI, so my family, we made Don, the whole family. Erica's doing a good job. All of us, Ivanka, we liked real estate. When you can make money in real estate, it's a great business, but I see some of these guys come into my office, they're wearing a T-shirt and they're 24 years old. Dad, he's got a net worth of $24 billion. I said, you gotta be kidding. Off a little contraption. So, but the money seems to be, right now, AI. And also, if you're in school, like you're going to the Wharton School or the Stern School or any of these great schools, the numbers that they're paying to go into that business is incredible, where you see people getting a $10 million bonus to sign, like baseball players or football players. We're giving you a $10 million. I hate to say because it sounds ridiculous, but there have been some $100 million bonuses paid to sign. So I think probably if you're going to say one thing, AI, and just hope that it works, right? You better hope.
So, Mr. President, what is the one leadership trait the world is missing right now? What is missing in leadership?
Well, it's winning. You got to win. I've watched a lot of people, leaders, great leaders. And, the one thing about sports is you break it down into, a 2-hour period, something nice. You don't have to wait a lifetime to find out is somebody a winner or a loser. You got a lot of losers, mostly losers, fortunately. It's a good thing to have a lot of losers. I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success. But I find, and I found this, and I'm only kidding, I want to say that, sort of. But I find that people that win, it's much easier to lead when you're successful and you win. Vince Lombardi was a very tough person, a very tough football coach. He was sort of a violent guy, actually. I knew him. But he won, and he got away with things because he won. I used to say, if you win, winning helps you to become a better leader. People follow you if you win. And not everybody can win. Some people win, and some people don't win. But when you win, it's a lot easier to lead.
Talking about winning, Mr. President, the world is entering in a new economic era. Who do you think are the winners and who do you think will be the losers?
Are you talking about as nations?
Yes?
Well,
Or sectors?
the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world, by far. And we've done it very quickly because we have a good system. Now, it's somewhat radicalized because the Democrats are really holding us back, and you better hope they don't get in because they'll destroy a lot of what we've built. But right now, the United States, as the future king of Saudi Arabia said, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. I must say, I respect China greatly because it's amazing that with a system that in theory shouldn't work, we go to school and we go to the best business schools and we do well in those schools. And we read about free entrepreneurship and we read about all of these different things. But you look at China, how well they do, how well they manufacture. I mean, they manufacture cars so many that they actually have a contest for who can manufacture the least cars because they have so many cars. You have to have great respect for China for the job they do. Like them or not like them, you have to respect them.
So precisely, you will be going to China in May.
Yes, I'll be going. We had a meeting and I called up President Xi. I get along really well with him. He even approved the TikTok deal. He said, I will not approve that deal to other people, not to me. And I thought it was good if we could keep it going. I like it because I'm the #1 person on TikTok. Can you believe it? I put a chart up there, another chart. You want to put another chart up? Like we did with fake news CNN. I said, let's see what happens. So we got a group of very big investors, the biggest investors, and they really wanted to buy TikTok. And I did very well on TikTok in the election. I won the youth. I did tremendously well with youth because of TikTok and other things, certain interviews, etc. But I did very well. And I sort of developed a liking for it. And I was told that it will never be approved by China. You had to get approval. And I didn't really care. And then it got to a point where all of these very successful people were willing to pay a lot of money for TikTok. And I called up President Xi. I said, do me a favor. Will you approve it, please? It's good. It's good for China, good for us, good for everybody. Would you do me a favor? I know you said it was a hard no. And I said, I know you said no to everybody, but you haven't said no to me. Would you do me a favor? Would you approve it? It's good for China. It's good for us. You have a lot of big investors. They're investing in China also. They have a lot of money in China. I would appreciate it. He said, okay, I'll do it. Nice. It was very nice. And they bought TikTok, and it's going to do good. And it was done with the consent of China. We get along well with China. China used to take big advantage of us, but they don't take advantage of us anymore. Now we compete very nicely with China. We put tariffs on China. The tariffs got too high. At one point, they were up to 145%. I was saying, nope, put tariffs on that, put tariffs on for fentanyl, add 20%. And then one day I said, what's China paying now? Sir, they're paying 145%. I said, 145? That's crazy. I got a little carried away. So I got them down to 100. Then I took them down a little more. And I'll never forget, I took them down a little bit from 145 to 100. And the fake news said, Donald Trump collapses in China. They're paying 100%. Nobody pays 100. So anyway, we got it down. And now we have a great business relationship with China. I've always had a good relationship with President Xi, except for the COVID situation, because I wasn't thrilled about that. He wasn't thrilled either, by the way, but I wasn't thrilled. But I have great respect for him as a leader. And we had a deal. I was going there, and I didn't want to go during the war. I said, look, we have a thing called a war, or as they would rather say, a military operation. This is for legal reasons. I say military, because as a military operation, I don't need any approvals. As a war, you're supposed to get approval from Congress, something like that. So I call it a military operation, but we have that going along, and I'd like to delay it. So we delayed it a few weeks, so I'll be going very shortly.
Mr. President, we have few leaders here, business leaders from Africa. And of course, we have His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone. What is your vision about Africa today?
Well, I tell you, it's got tremendous potential. Now, I've been hearing about this for a very long time, and I have a lot of friends that have bet the ranch on Africa. They're very smart. It's got tremendous earth. It's got tremendous value underground, which is a very important. So do we. So does America. We have the most oil, and gas, and coal and everything of any nation on earth. It's a big advantage. But Africa has tremendous value in its land. And if they can unify and get together, I think it's got tremendous potential. I have a lot of very smart friends that they're putting everything into Africa.
What do you think, Mr. President, is today the biggest mistake that leaders are making right now?
Not sticking together. I think that NATO made a terrible mistake when they wouldn't send a small amount of military armament, when they wouldn't send just even acknowledge what we were doing for the world and taking on Iran. I never considered it very risky, but war is always risk. You know, a lot of strange things happen in war that are very bad, but I didn't consider it. I know how great we're the greatest military by far anywhere there was nobody close. I didn't think there was a big risk, but there's always surprises with war. They can be very bad surprises. I mean, wars are lost that should be won. Many wars are lost. You think a country is going to wipe somebody out and they end up getting wiped out themselves. So it's always risky. But I think a tremendous mistake was when NATO just wasn't there. They just weren't there. It's going to make a lot of money for the United States because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO, hundreds protecting them. And we would have always been there for them. But now, based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
Mr. President.
That sounds like a breaking story, yes, sir. Is that breaking news? I think we just have breaking news. But that's the fact. I've been saying that. Why would we be there for them if they're not there for us? They weren't there for us.
If you had one bet on the future, what would it be?
That the United States will, with good leadership, remain the dominant country anywhere in the world. But you still need leadership. I mean, look at the last 4 years were so bad with the bad leader. You need leadership. And, you know, in theory, you need to have that. You need the open, fair elections. You need a free press. We have a terrible press. We have a very corrupt media. Think of it. I got 96% negative stories, and I won in a landslide. And you know what that means? That means that the media has no credibility. You can't get mostly bad stories, fake stories. They were fake. The polls are fake. That's why I appreciate that one poll that I saw up there, 100%. She's never seen 100%. Nobody has. But you have to have a free and open media. And when a media can give you 96 to 97% bad stories, they write stories about it. Trump received 97% bad stories, and I won in a landslide. And that means very simply that the media has no credibility because that can't happen. Now, I also have a voice more than most people. I can come up and talk about it and convince people without necessarily reading the New York Times, which is fake. I mean, if you read the New York Times, you would think we're doing badly against Iran. Remember, they have no Navy, wiped out. 159 ships at the bottom of the sea in 3 days. They have no Air Force, all wiped out. They have very few missiles left. Their drones are at a minimum. Their factories are gone. Their leaders are gone. The leaders are all dead. They're all dead. Nobody ever heard of the people that are left. And if you read the Times, you think we're doing poorly. It's almost treasonous, I have to be honest. It's almost treasonous. But fortunately, we have other media that's fair and honest and honorable. And you have to go out and do some of your own talking because nobody else will. You know the expression? I have to sell myself because nobody else will.
My last question, Mr. President, is the same question I asked you last year. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I told you that I settled 8 wars. That means millions and millions of people. And some of those wars were going on. One was 34 years, one was 32 years, one was 29 years, one was 22 years. They were long-term wars and a lot of people being killed every year. So I've saved millions and millions of people. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound right for me to say this, but I'd love my legacy to be made as a great peacemaker, because I really believe I'm a peacemaker. It doesn't seem it right now, but I think I'm a peacemaker. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Pastor Paula White, Senior Advisor to the White House Faith Office.
Good morning. It is an honor to stand in this sacred gathering where faith, leadership, and conscience meet at the National Prayer Breakfast, a moment that reminds our nation and the world that faith matters, prayer matters, and awareness of God's sovereignty matters, something the President reminded us of last year when he publicly gave God praise for the miracle of his life and God's sovereign plan. This morning, we gather not only to pray, but to give thanks. We give thanks for a president who understands that faith is not a private afterthought, but a public good. A president who has not merely spoken about faith, but has acted to protect it, defend it, and to elevate it to the highest level possible. I stand before you today with a very unique perspective. I've known this president for more than 25 years. I've had a front row seat, not just to the public moments the world sees, but to the private ones that most will never see. And it is there, away from the cameras and the crowds, that character is truly revealed. I've seen his compassion when no one was looking. I've witnessed his generosity when there was nothing to gain. I've watched him step in to help the forgotten, the overlooked, the vulnerable, not because it was politically expedient, but because it was the right thing to do. And more than 20 years ago, I was in his office in Trump Tower, and a well-known minister and my friend were with me. As the conversation was happening, the president turned, not to the famous voice in the room, but to my friend, and simply asked her what she did. She said, "Sir, I serve on the streets, the broken, the homeless, those struggling with addiction, and women trapped in prostitution." Without any hesitation, he called for his executive assistant to bring his checkbook, and he said, "Now that is real ministry." And he gave, not for recognition or for credit, no one outside of that room ever knew. But he continued to support that work quietly, faithfully, and privately for a very long time. Scripture commands us to care for the widow and the orphan, to defend the poor, and to love mercy. I've seen this president live that out quietly, time and time again, through actions, not just words. And as senior advisor to the president of the White House Faith Office, and my White House director, Jenny Korn, is up here, I can say without hesitation that no president in modern history, or perhaps all of history, has done more structurally, substantively, and sincerely to elevate and protect religious liberty. For the first time in our nation's history, faith has been institutionally elevated through the creation of the historic White House Faith Office, our one-year anniversary. Not a symbolism, but a substance. Housed in the West Wing, it ensures that people of faith are essential partners in serving the vulnerable, strengthening families, defending life, and shaping the soul of nation here and abroad. The president understands something very profound, that faith is not a threat to freedom. It is its foundation, that prayer is not weakness. It is wisdom, and that leadership at its best is accountable not only to the people, but to God. At a time when faith is under pressure globally, this president has stood unashamed, championing religious freedom at home and abroad, defending persecuted believers. and affirming that America will always be a nation where people are free to worship, free to speak, and free to live their conscience. He is bringing peace through great strength. In fact, President Trump has brought religion back to this nation and beyond. It is my great honor to introduce, and I think I can say this not as senior advisor, but as his friend, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the greatest champion of faith that we have ever had in the executive branch, the 45th and 47th president. Stand to your feet and give him the biggest welcome of the United States, a man I am honored to call friend, President Donald J. Trump.
Everybody. Well, thank you very much, and thank you to Pastor Paula. Paula's an incredible woman. She's been with me a long time, right from the beginning. This is a beautiful American tradition, and it's a true honor to be back with so many incredible leaders and people of faith at the National Prayer Breakfast. I think I've been here just about every time. It's hard to turn it down. I don't have the courage to turn it down. Sometimes I want to. Come back from a horrendous trip fighting people that can't stand us, keeping us out of wars, and seeing things that nobody would believe that anybody would see. And last time I came, I got in at 4 a.m. They said, "Sir, you're going to be speaking at 7?" I said, "Really? Oh, that's wonderful." I said, "Where?" "National Prayer Breakfast." I said, "I'll be there." I'm afraid not to be. I need all the help I can get. And you know, I never get a fair break from the fake news, which is back there. That's a lot of fake news. Because last time I was having a lot of fun. We had a big ride. We had 60,000 people, and I'm talking about the fact that I will never make it to heaven. I will never, ever. And I was being funny. I was trying to be, you can't be sarcastic with them because they write your words, and they don't. The people who are reading the words are much different. But I say, I'm never going to make it to heaven. I just don't think I qualify. I don't think there's a thing I can do, but all of these good things I'm doing, including for religion, religion's back now hotter than ever before. I mean, I have to tell you. But I said, even though I did that and so many other things, I named things, I said, I won't qualify. I'm not going to make it to heaven. And the New York Times did a front page story that Donald Trump is questioning his life and the meaning of his life. No, I was just having fun. I really think I probably should make it. I mean, I'm not a perfect candidate, but I did a hell of a lot of good for perfect people. That's for sure. Right, Mr. Speaker? But I want to thank the dozens of members of Congress here this morning, including a man of immense faith and immense talent. He's a very talented man. He's a small minority. It's just really, because we go back and forth between minority and majority, and half the time we're minority and we still win. How do we win with a minority? We have a couple of people that I consider to be negative. But we're 1 up, 2 up. Sometimes we're 3 up. In fact, we'll have 2 more victories very soon. We'll be 3 up. And we consider that having a massive majority, okay? Right, Mike? That's considered We're not spoiled. Can you imagine if we ever picked up like 20 or 30 seats? Wouldn't that be pretty? That'd be too easy. I think it would be too easy. It wouldn't be fun. I get these calls from Mike, sir, could you speak to so-and-so 3 o'clock in the morning? You know, we have two types. We have the type that goes along with us and believes in us, and they're with us all the way, and that I would say is 95%, right? And then we have the type that needs a little love all the time, no matter what it is. For the easiest thing on religion or republicanism, the easiest thing to pass, they always make it difficult, but they always get there. But I have to call them always at 3 in the morning. I'll always get that call. Sir, Speaker Johnson's calling. So I get, hi, Mike, what's up? What time is it? So it's 3 in the morning. So we have 9 names there giving us difficulty. They want to have a phone call. I said, all right, let's go. Here we go. Same 9 all the time, right? You know? So I call up. I say, Chip, how you doing, Chip? Hello, sir. Sir, I can't quite get there. I just don't know. Could I come over for breakfast? You know, we have a 9 o'clock vote, right? I said, really, is it not? Sir, you got to get me there, sir. Let's have breakfast, Chip, great. And then I get others, pretty much the same 9. I don't want to name too many, but I would. And they always get there. We have one that doesn't get there. We have one guy. He's an automatic no. No matter what. If we did welfare reform, if we did the greatest thing in history for religion, no matter what we did, no matter how good it is, greatest tax cuts, and we just did the greatest tax cuts in history, he voted against. He voted. Now, no matter what we do, this moron, no matter what it is, we could put them all together. I think, Mike, what would you say the top 5 things? Name them. We'll put them in one bill, and we'll put them before we'll get 100% vote, except for this guy named Thomas Massey. There's something wrong with him. We call him Rand Paul Jr. You know, it's like they just vote no. They love voting no. They think it's good politically. The guy's polling at about 9%. It's not good, but we have great support, and we have great support for religion. You know, I've done more for religion than any other president. When Paula was saying that, it was so nice. I was proud of it. And I said, that's true. I told the people backstage. What she said is true. Who else would say that, right? But it is true. But then I said, but that's not saying much, because not too many presidents have done too much for religion. I want to tell you that. Certainly modern day presidents, they bailed out on you. They bailed out. They want to be neutral. They want to be neutral or against. You know, the Democrats are against. I don't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I really don't. And I know we have some here today, and I don't know why they're here, because they certainly don't give us their vote. I certainly know that we're not going to be convincing them to vote for a little thing called voter ID. It polls at 97%. And even the Democrat, the people, the voters, are at 82% for voter ID, but the leaders don't want to approve it. They said they will strike, they will not allow it to happen. It's polling at over 90%. It's called voter identification. When you go to the polls, you show, yes, my name is so-and-so, and I live in the country. I'm here, I can vote. They say, that's not allowed. And no, everyone's trying to figure it out. And they do something to win. You know what it is? They cheat. But let's get on to another subject. No, at that, they're the finest, probably anywhere in the world, I would say. But we're trying to pass voter ID and other things having to do with your religion. And getting the Democrats to vote is very, very tough. But we're grateful to the co-chairs of the breakfast, Representatives Ben Klein and Jonathan Jackson and Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank a man who's been with me for a long time. We've been friends, and I used to be interviewed by him, and all he wanted to talk about was war. I said, this guy, you know, he's very smart, went to the top schools, was a top student, He's like me. I was a very good student too, but nobody would think so, you know. And nobody thinks Pete was a good student. I don't know. They think him as a tough cookie, flamethrower, which I like actually in the position of Secretary of War. But he has done some job. Pete Hegseth. You know, he was very popular. He turned down a very large 5-year extension contract for millions of dollars a year. Oops, I don't want to say that. Your wife is here. She's saying, are you crazy? He's got the greatest wife. But it's true that Pete has just been incredible. And I used to go and be interviewed at Fox and Friends. Remember those beautiful days? And I'd say, what do you want to talk about? So I want to talk about releasing about 25 prisoners. They have arrested American soldiers because they taught them how to fight, and they fought really well, and they won every battle. And now they put them in jail because they said they were too tough. I said, so how many are there? 22. And some of these guys were they were fairly tough, wouldn't you say, Pete? But you know, it's true. We teach people how to fight, and then you put them in jail because they fought a little bit too hard. And we took care of a lot of business, but that's all. We didn't talk about the normal things that an interviewer would be talking about, right? But I saw that, and I saw his love for the military. It was obvious. He was always looking to protect soldiers. And I said, you know, he's a really smart guy. If I ever get this thing, I got to get it. It wasn't easy, you know. They rigged the second election. I had to win it. Had to win it. I needed it for my own ego. I would have had a bad ego for the rest of my life. Now I really have a big ego, though. Beating these lunatics was incredible, right? What a great feeling. Winning every swing state, winning the popular vote. The first time, you know, they said I didn't win the popular vote. I did, but they said. So they'd always say, they would always thought they'd introduce me. While Donald Trump did not win the popular vote, you know, I'm sitting up being introduced by a Democrat or somebody. And he said, why Donald Trump did not win the popular vote? He won the presidency. Here he is. I said, that was terrible. I said, and we won the popular vote by a lot. We didn't want to play any games. This has been a much different. We had a great first term. We had the greatest economy in history, but this one's going to blow it away already. It's blowing everything away. We have $18 trillion coming into our country, blowing everything away. But we had a great first term. We rebuilt the military. You know, Biden gave a little chunk of it to Afghanistan brilliantly. He left tanks and planes and, you know, little things. I said, why didn't you fly the planes out? He said, well, nobody thought of it. He could have flown. He said, it's very hard to remove the equipment. Really? You couldn't fly an airplane? They buy $150 million brand new airplane. Sir, I think it's better to leave it. Why? It's more cost effective. So we leave them a brand new jet. I said, these people are crazy. But we have it under control now like you've never seen, and our military has never been stronger. And you saw that with the B-2 bombers in Iran, and you saw it recently with Venezuela, where we're getting along fantastically with leadership, really become a great relations. I don't think there's been anything quite like it ever. In fact, we have 50 million barrels of oil floating right now over to Houston, and we're working with them really well. I don't think I've ever seen anything. The cooperation that we have and it's great for them because they were in big trouble economically, and yet they have more oil than any other country in the world, I think, except us. But they have more oil just about than any. And by the way, us and them, we have 68% of the world's oil. Now, I know that doesn't mean too much to people of great religion. I know you want to hear about, but you know, we got to keep our country strong, and we're doing really good. But that's been an amazing operation. I would say when people saw that, I was just talking to a great leader from El Salvador, and he said, man, that was some attack. I've never seen anything like that one, right? Right, that was good, even by your high standard, right? That was a hell of an attack. But we have a great country. We have tremendous leaders. We have a fantastic cabinet. We have unbelievable bench, and one of them is Attorney General Pam Bondi, who may be here. Where's Pam? Is she here? Where are you, Pam? where, see, she wants to keep it nice and low key. You're really catching fire, by the way, Pam. You know, they were saying about Kristi Noem yesterday. I did the Super Bowl interview. Sir, are you going to relieve Kristi Noem of her duties? No. Oh. I said, why would I do that? We have the strongest border in the history of our country. We have the best crime numbers we've ever had. Going back to the year 1900, that's 125 years, we have the lowest crime numbers, despite the fact that this horrible, world's worst president, this is the worst president we've ever had, Biden. He had no idea he was president, so he doesn't take it personally. I don't want him to take it personally. Fortunately, he has no idea what the hell I'm saying. And he's watching right now. He's happy with what I just said. Okay. This is what we had running our country. But no, he was our worst president. We had some bad ones. We had Obama was very bad, terrible divider of our country. He was a divider. And believe it or not, we're bringing the country together. You know what's bringing it together? Tremendous success. We're having tremendous success. We have more investment being made in our country now than any country has ever had by many times. You go back 10 years, a certain country, not us, $3 trillion. We have in 11 months, because the 12th month is coming out next week, we have $18 trillion of investment coming in. The biggest ever was 3 many years ago. And one of the reasons for it is Secretaries Doug Burgum and Doug Collins. They are drilling like, you know, my whole thing was drill, baby, drill. Where are they sitting? I love those two guys. Come on, stand up. And is Catherine there? That's Catherine. Yes. Hi, Catherine. Chris. What they are drilling like nobody. I spoke with Chris yesterday, Doug. I said, how we do? Sir, we're drilling more oil than anybody's ever drilled by double, right? By double. We're doing it. That's why I was in Iowa last week with the farmers who were doing very well. We just handed them $12 billion out of tariff money because they were taken advantage of by foreign countries, various foreign countries. And I said, how much was it that they got hurt for? $12 billion. I said, good, let's write them a check. I gave the farmers $12 billion. And they don't even want it. They just want to be treated fairly. But we're getting it from that, but we're getting it with nobody's ever in history, and we've never done it either, like anywhere close. We're taking out more energy out of our beautiful land, oil and gas, clean oil and gas. And I always say, clean, beautiful coal. You know, the only thing I told these two guys they have to do, because they're the greatest energy people in the world, the best, I said, when you mention the word coal, anytime you mention coal, C-O-A-L, anytime you mention it, has to be preceded by 2 words, clean and beautiful. So Doug was making a speech the other day, and I sort of tried to pass a note, because he mentioned coal about 40 times, and he kept saying, clean, beautiful coal, clean. It really only works a few times, right? I said, no, when you say coal, clean, beautiful. You know, we buy all that wind from, we don't anymore. So we haven't approved anything in wind, right, Doug? Nothing, because it's, you know, it's a quick way to losing money, losing beauty, losing your fields, killing your birds. And other than that, it doesn't work. And Europe is so bad with the windmills, they're destroying their country with wind. And I was over there, it's not even recognizable what they've done. They've got a big problem on their hands. Between immigration and energy, Europe is destroying itself, and they better get smart. And I love them all. I'm friends with everyone of every country over there. I've helped them a lot. Got the GDP up from 2% to 5%, which is, for spending, for military spending. Nobody thought that was possible. Nobody thought 2% was possible. Got them to 5%. But it's not recognizable, Europe. If you go through the different cities, it's a very sad thing. And I tell it, I went over to Davos, they invited me, and when I left, they said, that may have been the stupidest invitation we ever gave to somebody, Switzerland. But they have to, I just say it like it is, they're destroying their country. They Their energy is ridiculous, what they've done, and the immigration is, I'm telling you, it's a place where many of these countries are not recognizable, and I'd like to see them straighten it out. Very soon, it's going to be impossible for them to straighten it out. We have our Director of National and International Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who's doing a great job. Where's Tulsi? She took a lot of heat 2 days ago because she went in at Pam's insistence. She went in and she looked at votes that want to be checked out from Georgia. They say, why is she doing it? Right, Pam? Why is she doing it? Because Pam wanted her to do it. And you know why? Because she's smart. And they said, well, this has to do, her position has to do, it's really not so, but her position has to do with international. I say, well, the same people that said that, they've been saying Russia, Russia, Russia has been screwing our elections, okay? So let's assume Russia had something to do with it. They say, no, no, Russia didn't have. So now they're saying Russia had nothing to do with it. Because if I say Russia, that it's perfectly fine. But you could add China and about 5 other countries to it. But she's done a great job, and Pam has done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it both. I haven't seen you in a couple of days. And I have one of the greatest negotiators. I'm so proud of him. He's a great negotiator. He's smart and respected by everybody. Jameson Greer, U.S. Trade. Where is Jameson? He's around here someplace. Thank you, Jameson. Boy, he's good. We have a great team. We have a great economic team, a great military team. We have Raisin Cain helps Pete. Raisin Cain. General Cain, he wiped out ISIS in 3 weeks. I was told by General Mattis and General Milley, sir, it will take 5 years. I said, what? Sir, it'll take 5 years. I said, you mean we have the best equipment in the world, and we're finding guys that use bad rifles, knives preferably. They're very good with a knife, but a knife shouldn't do it. And I said, why? And I flew over to Iraq, and I met a guy named Cain. I came out of the plane, and there's a handsome general standing there. I had 3 generals. I went there to find out why the hell we couldn't win the war. Why aren't we winning the war against ISIS? They've been, playing games with us. So I wanted to see, and that's where I met Raisin Cain. I said, what's your first name? Raisin, sir? They call me Raisin. I said, what the hell kind of a name is that? Right? We've learned a lot about him. Now we get it. In this very quiet manner, he's brutal. Just ask Venezuela. Ask Iran. They're negotiating now. They don't want us to hit them. We have a big fleet going over to Iran. But so Raisin was there at the bottom of the plane. What's your name? Raisin. What's your last name? Cain. I said, so your name is, let's get this straight. Your name is Raisin Cain, right? Yes, sir, that's what they call me. You're the guy I'm looking for. And then he said, sir, if you'd like, you can go and sleep. It's a 20-hour trip. If you'd like, you can go and sleep. We have quarters prepared for you. I said, no, I don't have to sleep. I've been on a plane sleeping for I'm sleeping on the plane. I don't sleep on planes. I don't like sleeping on planes, I like looking out the window watching for missiles and enemies, actually. But he said, sir, we have a place prepared for you, and we can meet after you've rested. I said, no, let's go right now. So we did that. And I said to him, they tell me it's going to take 5 years to defeat ISIS. No, sir. I said, well, how long would it be, General Cain? Sir, we can do it in 4 weeks. I said, what? We can do it in 4 weeks, sir. And I should have maybe a couple of weeks left over. You can do it in less than 4 weeks? Yes, sir. I said, well, how come they tell me, our television generals, as I call them, two very poor generals, these guys, they look nice, they were nice guys. They didn't have what it took, believe me. Yeah, some people have that. They don't have what it takes no matter what. I said, how come they tell me it's 4 to 5 years? And he said, well, I don't want to speak badly about anybody, so I'd rather not comment on that. I found that to be nice, okay? But I said, all right, tell me how you're going to do it. Well, sir, we use this one base here, and we're hundreds of miles away, and by the time the planes get to the target, they have to come back and refuel, and we're too far. I said, why do we do that? Because we don't want to offend any of the other countries. I said, we have a lot of portable airports, right, Pete? We have portable airports all over the Middle East, runways that are portable. You put them down, you take them up. We have equipment. Nobody has the stuff we have. We have airports that look better than Kennedy Airport. And they're built in sand. And it took us about 2 minutes to build them. No, the equipment is incredible. You can land any plane on them, right? Portable. And we've got many of them, sir. We have to use them. I said, why don't we? Because we didn't want to offend another country. I said, let me ask you a question. You're in the middle of the desert. Would another country know if we're taking off from some strip in the desert? They would have no idea, sir. They don't have radar. They don't have anything. So he explained it. So we want to hit them, sir, from 17 different locations. And we want to hit them left. And we hit them, here we go. And we want to hit them right. Sure, and we want to hit them from the top. And we want to hit them from the bottom. East, west, north, south. Sir, they won't know what the hell hit, and we'll knock them out. We did it politically correct. 5 years, we'd call up the country head and we'd tell them, we'd like to attack ISIS today. As soon as the call was made, they'd call ISIS and tell them, you're going to be attacked, get the hell out of it. This is what we were doing for years, not with Raising Cane and not with Pete Hegseth, right, Pete? We don't do that. And we have a little different method. So I went back to Washington and I said, this guy, he said, and then I checked up on him and he was so respected. I said, he's really respected. And I called him back. I said, General, go at it. Do good luck. God bless you. And he said, I say that to the people going out every time. And they say it when we give the okay for the attack on Venezuela or the attack on Iran. He says, I say, we all say, we're all in a room together watching. We watch it. We watch these attacks. We always say, God bless you. Have a safe journey. It's a dangerous journey. These are dangerous journeys. Flying through the middle of Iran, they know you're coming, and you're in a B-2 bomber, the most incredible thing, and they weren't able to see it because it's stealth. So good, we ordered 20 more of them, brand new, updated version. I actually said, don't get the updated, just take the one you have. They said, no, sir, the new one's even better. We have a military, nobody has a military like we do. I rebuilt it, by the way, during my first term. I mean, I think it's one of the best things I did. I rebuilt the military during the first term, and now we're really rebuilding the military, right? But the bottom line, I called him, I said, so you think you can do it, General? Yes, sir, I can do it. And it was over in 3 weeks. It was incredible, and I mean over. And then the election's rigged, and I wasn't there, and for 4 years, ISIS rebuilt. And they have a little bit of ISIS now again. And we knocked the hell out of them the other day in Nigeria because they were killing Christians. You know about that. They were killing Christians. So you can't do that. When Christians come under attack, they know they're going to be attacked violently and viciously by President Trump. I know it's not a nice thing to say, but that's the way it is. So we're also delighted to welcome visiting leaders and dignitaries from more than 110 countries. They're here, including one of my favorite people, President Bukele of El Salvador. He has been so incredible. He has been such a great ally of this country. Thank you very much. Such a great ally. He's, some of you have seen, he operates rather large prisons, like prisons that's so large you can't see from one side to the other unless you have perfect 20/20 eyesight with binoculars. That's how long and big. And they do a job. They do a very humane job, but they're very strong prisons. And we send a lot of the people that we capture, the murderers, the drug dealers, the people that came into our country illegally and have already committed massive crimes. We had 11,888 murderers, and many of them are in your prisons right now, right? And he does a fantastic job. I mean, it really sounds like a different kind of, this is a religious breakfast. You're going to walk away and say, he's the meanest son of a gun I've ever seen. But I'm not. I just want to keep our country safe. It's very simple. We have to keep our country safe. So I want to thank you, Mr. President, for a great, amazing job you do with our people, too. They work together so well. Appreciate it. Not easy. This prayer breakfast comes at a special time for our country as we prepare to celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence. And we're also very shortly going to have the Olympics and the World Cup. And, I got them. I was the one that got the Olympics, and I was the one that got, and I was so upset because I got them. I tried to move them up, but I couldn't. And my first term, I was getting them, and Barack Hussein Obama would refuse to call the Olympics because, in all fairness, they took advantage of him. Remember, he went there. He flew all the way to whatever country, some beautiful country in Europe, and he made his presentation, and he ended up coming in last. And that shouldn't happen to a president. If you're a president, you have to get a wink. I'll go there, but are you going to give us the Olympics? Otherwise, I'm not going there. I don't want to. So he sat there, made a very nice presentation. He came in last, came in fourth place. So he hated those people. He won't say that, I don't think, but I'll say it for him. And so he refused to be involved with the Olympics. I got a call from Democrats. The Democrat mayor of Los Angeles called me. So we have a problem. We have a president that refuses to call the Olympic Committee. And I just won the presidency. I was president-elect. And so I wasn't even in office. And I called this gentleman from, I think, Denmark. Can you believe? They own a large piece of ice that we're negotiating for. It's the biggest piece of ice in the world. The world's largest piece of ice. They'll never run out of water. But I called the president, I called the various people, but the head of the Olympic Committee, very nice guy, and I couldn't get him off the phone. He was starving for love because nobody called him. They just wanted to know from the president, does the United States want the Olympics? They didn't want to choose the United States and then, have somebody say like, we don't care. I said, I desperately want it. We're going to get it, blah, blah, blah. And I spoke to him, I spoke to other people, and I got it. I called up the Democrat from Los Angeles, happened to be the mayor of Los Angeles. He was devastated. He couldn't get all they wanted to do is have an acknowledgement from the head of the country. Wouldn't do it. But I did it. We got the Olympics. And we got the World Cup. But then I don't know if Johnny's here from the World Cup, but that guy's great. He's great, my friend. But I got them both, and I was really upset because I got them. And then I said, I won't be president because they're in the following term. Because, when you get the Olympics, usually it's 10 years in advance. And I said, so I did all that good work. It wasn't that easy. I got it. Then I got the World Cup. They both were happening now in a year, another year and a half, a year, right after the 250. I didn't get 250. I tried to claim it a couple of times. I said, and I produced 250-year anniversary. It was my deal. I got 250 years, and the press hit me hard on that one, so I gave that up immediately. But I happened to be president during that, so think of it. So I'm the president, and I got these two things, and I said, you know what? I got the Olympics to come to the United States, and I got the World Cup to come to the United States, and I probably won't even be invited to be there. And I was really angry. And then they rigged the election, and then I said, I'm coming back. And I got the Olympics, and I got the World Cup. Right? And at some point, I'm going to get right back onto the teleprompter, and you're going to say, that was a wonderful speech. On that momentous day in 1776. This is so much easier. You know, it takes real talent to do the other. The other is much more talent, but that's why we're president, I think. But we have very important words to say, and this is such an important group. And we have plenty of time to say it, because when it comes to religion, I have all the time. I'm one of the few that say we have all the time in the world. But on that momentous day in 1776, history changed forever when our founders proclaimed the immortal truths that echoed around the world and down all the way through time. They declared that all of us are made free and equal by the hand of our Creator. A lot of presidents refuse to say that. They refuse to say that. Some refuse. Some major politicians refuse to say the word God. They don't want to say it. I say it. That we are endowed with our sacred rights to life, liberty, and not by government, but by God Almighty Himself. And those words rang out from Philadelphia and launched a revolution, not just in America, but in the hearts of all humanity. The principles of the Declaration of Independence, which is one of three, sitting right beautifully in the Oval Office. I took it out of the vaults, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully protected, and it's a magnificent document. I stare at it all the time, and I read it as often as I can. A true, brilliant work of art. They've stirred the spirit of patriots in every nation, liberated millions from tyranny, and lifted billions from poverty, and it's doing now more than ever before. We're doing better than this country's ever done. In 1 year, think of what we can do. We just have to keep it going, Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind. Okay, got to keep it going. But no, and the Democrats admit this, no president in his first year has ever done the things we've done. When you think we've gotten the largest tax cut in history, larger than even in the first term. But we've done something else, and I think we've brought back spirit to our country. You know, 2 years ago, you couldn't get anybody to go into the military. They laughed at you when they said they didn't respect our country. They didn't respect our president. They thought he was a joke. They thought our country was a joke. Other countries laughed at us and took advantage of us with tariffs, and we weren't allowed to charge, and they were allowed to charge, but we are allowed to charge. And I hope we get that Supreme Court decision, because we have taken in hundreds of billions of dollars of money. We're a rich nation again, doing what other nations have done to us for many, many years. But the biggest thing is what's happened to me. It's the spirit of our country, and that goes for religion, but it also goes for the military. We couldn't recruit anybody to go into our great military. We were the worst I think it's ever been 2.5 years ago under the Sleepy Joe Biden administration. I call him Crooked Joe and Sleepy Joe. I find them to be equal, actually. I do polls. Which is better, Crooked Joe or Sleepy Joe? And they poll about even. So I use both. But we have now the greatest recruiting that we've ever had. Everybody wants to be in the military. We're hot as a pistol. We couldn't get anybody to go into not me, the last administration. Nobody wanted to be in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the Coast Guard, Space Force, which is turning out to be good. I'm so proud of it, because I'm the father of Space Force. I'm the one that wanted it. So, but we couldn't get people. They couldn't get people to go into any of them, including our police departments and our fire departments. They weren't proud of our nation. They had no spirit. And now we have had the single greatest recruitment in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. We have waiting lists of people wanting to get in. In fact, if we want to expand the military, Mr. Speaker, this would be a very good time to do it. We have so many people want to get into the military that, but We also won in the Supreme Court, as you know, based on merit. It was a merit, and we take people based on merit. Like, we prefer a strong person in the military as opposed to a weak person. We prefer somebody that's a strong, powerful person with extremely good vision that can shoot a rifle very well to a person that's extremely weak, non-muscular, can't shoot a rifle, has no idea where the hell he is. We have a military where they all look like Tom Cruise, only bigger. Now we hire on merit now. And that goes for colleges. People get into colleges now. If you have great boards and great marks and you worked, and then somebody else gets in with that's not nearly as qualified, now it's a merit system. It's tough in one way, but it's, you know, our country was built on a system of merit. And then we went away from it a number of years ago. We got it back. That was a brave decision by the Supreme Court, I'll say. And it's tough on some people. Actually, it makes people work harder, I think. But we have to base our country on merit, or we won't have a country. We were going in such a bad direction. It's incredible. And I give a lot of credit on that one to the Supreme Court. They give me some bad ones, too. But I give a lot of credit. That took a lot of courage to do it. But they understood it was the right thing to do to be a great nation, however. I think, and I may be wrong, but I don't think so, because I've watched a lot and I study a lot. You have to have religion. You have to have it. You have to have faith. You have to have God. And thankfully, as we gather today, there are many signs that religion is coming back, and now it's no longer signs. It's just coming back. It's coming back so strong. You know, your churches are filling up. You didn't have that 2 years ago. It was hurt by COVID, but it really, and they treated you terribly. The Democrats treated you terribly. Sorry, Mr. Congressman, but the truth is, I mean, they had pastors holding services outside. The people were standing 15 feet away from each other, and everybody was arrested. You know, it was like, they ran it. You know, they always like to say, Trump is a dictator. They love that. I'm not a dictator. But they were like dictators. They were like the Gestapo. They were arresting people for going to church, and they were arresting people and treating people like horribly. And I made a lot of amends to those people. Those people were treated very badly for wanting to go to church. It had a huge impact, negative impact on churches, but the churches are now coming back stronger than ever. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, actually. So you're all hot, okay? You know, it's like the king of Saudi Arabia. He said, and you probably heard me say it, I love it, I was with him. And he said, a year and a half ago, he said, you know, a year and a half ago, he said, we thought your country was dead. And now you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. Nobody even close. I think you can say that, Mr. I mean, El Salvador is very hot, but I think we can say that, right? We have the Congo here. I don't know. The Congo is hot. We just ended a war. One of our 8 wars that we ended, right? He's a great guy, too. He's a great guy. You talk about people that suffered. Those people suffered. In 2025, more copies of the Holy Bible were sold in the United States than at any time in the last 100 years. Now, how about that? How about that? Did you know that, Mr. Speaker? You know, Mike Johnson's a very religious person, and he does not hide it. He'll say to me sometimes at lunch, sir, may we pray? I say, excuse me? We're having lunch, you know, the Oval. It's okay with me. But he's a very religious person, and he is popular, and he's doing an unbelievable job. So I think God is watching over you. God is watching over him. I don't know about me. So I hang around with him because I feel I'm protected a little bit. In the last 12 months, young Americans attended church at nearly twice the rate as they did 4 years ago. And many churches, you see the stats, I mean, people are talking about it. The radical left is not happy about it. Many Democrats are not happy about it. This, by the way, will be the last year the Democrats show up to this event, I tell you. But I got to say, how the hell do you vote for these people? But some churches are seeing a 30%, 50%, or even 70% increase in the number of converts and also the number of people going to church every week. To support this exciting renewal this morning, I'm pleased to announce that on May 17th, 2026, that we're inviting Americans from all across the country to come together on our national mall to pray, to give thanks, and we are going to do something that everyone said, like, that's tough. We're going to rededicate America as one nation under God. You know, a lot of people... Yeah, thank you very much. It's good. That's what I mean by the Spirit. It's so incredible to see it. I see it so much. I've never seen anything like it in 1 year. I thought it would take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to be where we are. We've done it in, really 10 months. We're at 12, but now it's just getting to a level that we've never reached before as a country. But that includes religion. And maybe that's part of the reason that we're doing so well. There's such great spirit. It's all spirit, and it includes religion. I've always said, you just can't have a great country if you don't have religion. You have to believe in something. You have to believe that what we're doing, there's a reason for it. There has to be a reason for it. We're all working and we're behaving. I behave because I'm afraid not to, okay? Because I don't want to get in trouble. No, it's such a positive thing, and people are starting to see it, and they go into church, and they're meeting people, and families are developing. It's really, the things are happening in our country right now, and we have to get the bad ones out. We have to do it. We can't let that happen, and we're being very tough in law and order and crime, and I hate to say it because it doesn't seem to go hand in hand, but you can't have people going to churches and coming out and have criminals taking advantage and doing things that nobody wants to even describe. And that's not happening anymore. You know, Washington, D.C. is a very safe city now. When I took over, Washington, D.C. was a death trap. Many people were being killed. 2, 3 a week, they were being killed. Come in from Iowa to look at the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson, the George Washington, the monument. And they called the parents, I'm sorry, sir, your son has been killed. What? Your son has been killed. That doesn't happen. You know, we took out 2,000 monsters out of Washington, D.C. It's not just that we have the troops, and they are central casting. I love them. I think, to me, it looks much more beautiful. You walk down the street, you have 3 guys that are 6'6" and angry-looking people, but they actually are very nice. They're angry when they see criminals. That's all. They get angry. They took Tren de Aragua, and honestly, I don't want to say this, but they beat the crap out of them. They beat the crap out of them. They found that they were doing bad things, and Tren de Aragua didn't want anything to do with these guys. Then we put them in the paddy wagon. We took them back to where they came from. You know that. But we took out over 2,000 hardcore criminals. You know, 2% of the population produces 90% of the violent crime. Think of that. Think of that. And Washington now is a very safe place. I get it all the time. I go into the White House and people that work in the White House come up, sir, I want to thank you so much. Young woman, man. They say, I walk to work. I couldn't have walked to work. I wouldn't have even thought to walk to work before. They walk to work. The place is booming. Restaurants are opening up. The restaurants were almost going to be all closed. They would have been all closed. You couldn't even go, even if you got there, the restaurant would be robbed with people sitting there. Hold up your hands, everybody. Give us your money. And then they'd whack people with the butt of a gun. And Washington is a very safe city. We have almost no crime. And it's a miracle, but it took place very quickly. And it's the same thing for every other place we've gone. In Louisiana, New Orleans, I got a call from the governor, Jeff Landry, great guy, great governor. He said, could you send the troops? Because I'll tell you what, this place is out of control. I did, and in a period of 2 weeks, we got crime down by 25%. Now it's been about 7 or 8 weeks. We have it down 77%, and within another month, they're not going to have any crime, and they're not going to have any crime in that wonderful city of joy that people go up and down. Right? They're not going to have any crime there. It's amazing. Memphis, Tennessee is another one. The mayor works with us. And, it's nice when they work with us. It's just so much easier. Sometimes we can't work with them. Like in Minnesota, they won't work with us, but we've still driven crime down 25%. If we didn't have to fight this horrible governor and this horrible fake mayor, Fry, this is the Constitution of the United States. People don't want to be mugged. They don't want to have a murderer living next door that was, killed 3 people in a certain country and is now living beautifully here. Because generally speaking, if they've killed in another country, they're not going to be the best of citizens. And they're rough people. Remember in the campaign, I used to say that their criminals make our criminals look like babies. It's true. These are some of the meanest, most vicious people. They only gave us the worst. They don't send, they're very smart. Guys like the president over here, El Salvador. He's sent us a few. I don't want to talk to him about it. But he sends us some real bad ones. He's not, look, you just say it, we'll do it more positive. Isn't it true that you will not send your good people to the United States? Wouldn't you say? Look at him. He doesn't know. He said, what's going on here? But no, he sends bad people to the United States. And I'm going to talk to him after this. But I love him. He's done a great job, right? They're smart people. And they're very streetwise. When you're running some of these countries in South America, Latin America, you got to be streetwise. You got to be smart. He's very smart, very streetwise. But these leaders of those countries, they're not sending. They cherish their good people. They only send us their bad people. But we have done some job, and we have, in Minnesota, crime's down, just despite that we have to fight these lunatics over there that are stealing money, by the way, also. I believe it's actually a cover-up of the $19 billion at least that they've stolen. I actually think they do this as a cover-up. Under the Trump administration, we're standing strongly behind Americans of faith, stopping the attacks on our values, our traditions, defending religious liberty, like no president. I believe like no president has ever done before. I do believe that. We got rid of the sinister Johnson Amendment so that pastors can speak the truth and they can speak it without having their tax-exempt status revoked. I was with a large group of ministers, pastors, priests, rabbis. We had a group of people that were a great group. And I asked them for help. Paula White was there, remember, Trump Tower at the top of the building, beautiful building. And they were so enthusiastic for the first election. They were so enthusiastic. And I didn't want to be pushy because I'm not a pushy individual. But I didn't want to be overly aggressive, so I figured I'll ask them in the second meeting. So the second meeting came, the similar group, ministers. We had Muslim leaders there. We had everybody there. But there were about 55 of them. Beautiful boardroom on the top floor, tall building, beautiful building in New York. And I said, I'd like to ask, and they were so good. They, sir, we love you, you're great, blah, blah, blah. I figured this was going to be the easiest endorsement I ever got. And I said, I'd love to have your endorsement. And it was like ice. was like death. I said, what the hell? What happened? And I said, could I ask what's going on? You were really nice, and now you've just clammed up, and you're like scared. And one of them stood up, that Paula knows very well. He said, sir, we're very concerned because if we speak about religion, if we ever endorsed you as an example, we would lose our tax-exempt status immediately and our church would go out of business. He said, what's that all about? And it was the Johnson Amendment. Lyndon Johnson had a fight with somebody in Dallas or Houston with a minister, and he didn't like him, and they didn't like each other, and the minister thought he was terrible, and I guess he didn't like the minister, and he was a powerful president. He knew how to do things, and he got something passed called the Johnson Amendment, which basically takes away your right of speech. And people like me, and people like a lot of people, they want to hear from ministers. They want to hear from priests. They want to hear from them. And you were restricted from talking about very important things like who to elect. If you said that, you were gone. You couldn't do it, even if you said it in a very nice way because they were going to be better for the church. And we worked hard, and we're going to make that permanent pretty soon, I think, Mike. But we worked hard at getting rid of the Johnson Amendment. It's gone as far as you can say anything you want. Now, if you do say something bad about Trump, I will change my mind, and I will have your tax-exempt status immediately revoked. If I go into one of these churches, we will stop Trump. You ever hear some of these guys? I said, not too many, I can tell you, because we won like 94% of the vote. People got it. People got it. We had a lot of people pretending. They pretended to be very religious, but I don't believe they were. But the people ultimately got it. You know, you have a Robert Jeffress. I don't know if he's here. Is he here, Robert? Is he here? Robert Jeffress was on television in 2016 when I just sort of announced I was running. And he said, I know every candidate very well. There were 18 candidates, me and 17 others. He said, I know every candidate very well. And I know Trump a little bit. But he may not be as good with the Bible as some of them. He may not have read the Bible as much as some of them. In fact, he may not have ever read the Bible, but he will be a much stronger messenger for us, and he will get things done that no other man has the ability to get done. And I endorse him fully. And I said, you know, that guy, I didn't want to admit anything, but that was very interesting. And I think we've gotten more done, Paula, than anybody could have ever gotten done. What we've done, nobody else would have been able to do. We reinstated also service members who were thrown out of our military over religious objections. That was a big deal. They thrown out over religious objections to vaccine mandates and all of the other things. They used any excuse they could. We restored those patriots to their former ranks with full pay. We've given them full pay. They were taken advantage of. And I really think it was over religion. I actually think that they used the vaccines as a way of really punishing people over religion. I don't know how you can vote for these people. I really don't. I don't know how you can. We passed the largest ever expansion of school choice so that every parent has a chance to send their child to a school that shares their values. And today I'm also pleased to announce that the Department of Education is officially issuing its new guidance to protect the right to prayer in our public schools. That's a big deal. Now the Democrats will sue us, but we'll win it. We'll win it. They'll sue us. They sue us for everything. I'm the most sued human being in history. They've sued me for everything. I got impeached twice over nothing, but the Republicans were great. Just wiped them right out. But I got impeached. I got indicted. Wiped them out. There's never been, there's never been, to the best of our knowledge, any politician that's ever been indicted who won an election. Very popular politicians got indicted, they lost. I got indicted so much, I got tired of calling my wife. I'd say, darling, I was just indicted again. She said, oh, darling. What? Oh, what does that mean? You know, she's very elegant. You saw that from the movie. She's not into the world of indictments. It's not Melania. Now she doesn't know what an indictment, you know, it's not her deal. Her movie, by the way, big success. That movie is a big success. Yeah, I called up so